Do we truly know what is right and wrong? Or are we just repeating what we've been told by culture, by politics, by education or algorithms? Socrates believed that wisdom begins not with knowing, but with admitting that we don't know. This is not a weakness, it is the beginning of a transformation. And what is the beginning of that journey? A question. The English word question contains with it the word quest, a journey, a search. Every genuine question begins a quest, a desire to uncover something deeper. In Greek, the word for question is erotisi, and within that we find the word eros. Eros, in the ancient Greek philosophy and mythology, it's not just a romantic love. He is the great daimon, the great demon, the binding force of the universe, the energy that connects, attracts, and holds things together. The root of the word eros is ero, which means to connect, to tie together, and erao, which means longing for something, wishing for something. So a question, it's not just a demand for information, it's a thread of connection between mind and soul, between ignorance and understanding, between the human being and the cosmos. Through the right questions, we move toward truth within ourselves and the truth of the world. And the art of asking those right questions is what the Greeks called dialectic, dialogos. Interestingly, the Greek verb dialego, to dialogue, literally means I choose through reason. It implies sophistication. I examine, I compare, I do not swallow everything whole. And as Socrates warned, the unexamined life is not worth living. In the Gorgias dialogue, he draws a powerful distinction between true belief and false belief. False belief comes through manipulation, propaganda, and passive acceptance. True belief comes through education, vigilance, and ongoing questioning. So, in a world where manipulation is subtle, constant, and often invisible, the Socratic method, it is not just an old technique. It is a shield, a mirror, and a torch. It reminds us that asking the right question isn't just about intelligence, it is about freedom. Dialectics is not something remote or reserved for boring academics. It's a tool. If we use it properly, it can help us live more consciously and avoid contradictions both around us and within us. Antithesis used to say that the most necessary lesson is ta kaká apomαθήν, which means to unlearn the bad. But how do we know that when we grow up in a system that teaches us to accept information as given or to trust the experts? A classic question is, what did you study, sir? Music, I say. Then why are you dealing with philosophy if you didn't study it? And my reply is, because I want to. And I read 10 books at the same time, and when I'm not reading, I'm lucky enough to have headphones very often while I'm working, and I'm listening. Do you think I have nothing to say? Besides, music has an absolute connection to philosophy. The famous Frank Zappa quote, if you want to get laid, go to college. If you want an education, go to the library. Let's completely break it down and bring the dialectic story to the marketplace. I've used this example before because it's fun. In the marketplace, we don't go buy vegetables blindly. We take the tomatoes in our hands, look at them, check if they're fresh or rotten. We don't just trust the seller who is trying to get rid of his rotten goods. So you look at it and ask yourself, is it worth buying this tomato? But we don't do the same with our ideas. On the contrary, we swallow them whole exactly as they're given to us. We don't examine whether a belief is rotten, stale, or mutated. We don't compare it with other ideas to see if it holds up. We just accept it because That's how we were taught, because it was repeated enough times from school and because the majority does it that way. Dialectics help us to do with our ideas exactly what we do in the marketplace, to take them and examine them one by one to see if they have value or if we should throw them away. Not to accept the first opinion that is served to us, but to compare, to analyze, and to seek synthesis. Thesis, antithesis, synthesis is a simple definition of dialectics according to Hegel. Dialectical thinking is a process that leads us to truth and to the understanding of the world around us. Antithesis, as we said before, when asked what is the most necessary lesson, he answered, to unlearn the bad. Nowadays, this doesn't simply mean removing moral evils, but also all habits and perceptions that distance us from true well-being, from prosperity and sound thinking. Learning to distinguish the bad and unnecessary from the good and the necessary is the first step towards self-knowledge. But this distinction is not something that happens automatically. It requires conscious effort and practice. The basic principle of dialectics is to ask the right questions and seek the appropriate answers. Instead of blindly consuming whatever is offered to us, we must analyze and separate truth from lies and deception. Clarity in our thinking, the pursuit of essence behind appearances, and avoidance of confusion are essential for the development of dialectical thinking. Heraclitus, with his concept of the harmony of opposites, essentially speaks about dialectics, that the world is not static, but constantly changing and full of contradictions. He said, "War is the father of all," implying that the conflict of opposites is the very driving force of evolution. Dialectics help us understand how these contradictions and conflicts are simply the way the universe moves forward and evolves. The universe operates with cause and effect, a process we can grasp through dialectics. Although at first glance contradictions may seem to create chaos, in reality these contradictions reconcile over time and lead to greater harmony and order. How can someone begin to cultivate dialectical thinking in everyday life? Ask questions. The first and most important way to begin dialectical thinking is to learn how to ask questions. When faced with an idea, a theory, or problem, we should ask, why is it like this? What is the cause of this phenomenon? What are the consequences of this? Questioning is key to dialectical thought. Analyze contradictions. Life is full of contradictions, and we need to observe and analyze them. When we see two opposite views or situations, instead of rejecting them, we should examine and understand how they relate. Recognize synthesis. As Heraclitus said, contradictions lead to a new synthesis. This means that while contradictions exist, they lead to new perceptions and situations. We should not be discouraged by contradictions, but examine them and understand the deeper meaning and balance that may emerge from them. Self-criticism. Dialectical thinking requires continuous self-criticism. It is important to recognize our mistakes and biases and remain open to new information and ideas. Avoid vagueness. Clarity is fundamental but often absent today. When discussing or thinking, we should avoid vague and general statements. Instead, we must be specific and rely on logical arguments. Dialectical thinking is not only a tool for understanding the world, but also a way of life that aids personal growth and understanding the universe's harmony. Through this process, we can distance ourselves from the bad and discover the truth behind appearances. Therefore, The contradictions in our daily lives stem from our unconsciousness and our distance from dialectical thinking. We do not learn to question, to doubt, or to analyze. We have been made to believe that dialectics is something boring, a theoretical pursuit for academics, while in reality it is the most practical tool we have to live consciously. Examples of such contradictions. You work at a call center, calling people to sell them loans without knowing if they are already drowning in debt, if they are mentally unstable, or if the product you are promoting will harm them rather than help them. You don't even question the consequences of your actions. You simply follow instructions and say, I am just doing my job. You are a police officer sent to a protest. You are ordered to throw tear gas at retirees demanding a better life. You know these people are your parents, your grandparents, and that their cause is clearly just. Yet, you follow orders without questioning whether you are truly serving social order or simply acting as a tool of oppression. And you say, I'm just doing my job. You are a journalist, handed press releases to reproduce. You don't investigate, you don't question the truth of what you are saying. You become a mouthpiece, spreading misinformation even though you may have once entered this profession to serve the truth. And what do you say? I'm just doing my job. You work for a company that asks you to present a product as amazing and high quality even though you know it is junk. You convince yourself that this is how the market works and go on selling lies saying, I am just doing my job. You are a politician who makes pre-election promises about justice, progress and change. But when the time comes to act, you give in to various pressures, serve interests and forget the values you once claimed to stand for. You don't realize you have come to become part of the same system you once denounced. And you just say, I'm just doing my job. You study medicine because you want to help people, but once you enter the job market, you are forced to act like a business person, promoting pharmaceuticals, asking for under-the-table payments, seeing patients as clients, because this is how the job is. You are a priest, supposedly a man of God, someone who has dedicated their life to the divine, but you pocket small bills from grandmothers and memorial services. You build a luxury villa in village. Instead of practicing temperance, you've indulged in excess. You've got high cholesterol, diabetes and a massive belly. But hey, God provides, my child, and you're just doing your job. All of these are examples of people who have not learned to think dialectically. They follow rules, submit to rules and circumstances without examining the contradictions. They don't ask whether what they do aligns with their values. They don't seek deeper truth. They live entirely mechanically and unconsciously. Dialectical thinking is the tool that allows us to see beyond the surface, to recognize our internal contradictions, and to see the synthesis that can move us forward. It's not just about doubting, it's a continuous process of seeking truth. Instead of accepting things as they are, we begin to ask, why am I doing this? What are the consequences? What does this action serve? Is this really what I want to do? Or am I just obeying, conforming, or settling? Dialectical thinking is the only way out of unconsciousness. And how can we apply dialectics in our daily lives? Instead of living mechanically, we can begin to think dialectically, to analyze situations around us and within us, to seek the contradictions and try to transcend them. Examples of dialectical thinking in everyday life. At work, the problem. You work at a company that sells poor quality products at high prices, essentially scamming people. Instead of accepting it as a dead end and saying, I'm just doing my job, you ask yourself, is there a way for me to remain true to my values while still being here? What's the solution? You search for another job or suggest improvements within the company. If this is not possible, maybe you use part of your income to support something better or dedicate some of your free time to do something meaningful. The key is that you are aware of your position, consciously and clearly. In relationships, you have this problem. You are in a relationship where you end up arguing all the time. What's the solution? You apply dialectical thinking and ask, what is the other person really trying to say? Do they have a point? These are the results we are seeing. What were the causes? Why is our relationship different now than how it used to be? Instead of reacting emotionally, you look into the deeper dynamics of the situation and consider whether it is worth resolving things, or like Alexander the Great, you may realize that what cannot be untangled must be cut. What cannot be untied must be cut. Alexander the Great. Faced with the Gordian knot, Alexander didn't seek endless analysis. This phrase stands as a symbol of decisiveness. When logic can't untangle a situation, boldness is required, action, even rupture. The story tells us, don't stay trapped in endless problems, don't overthink it. Make the cut, forge a new path. In the news, information we consume. You read an article or hear the news and something about it doesn't feel right, it seems suspicious or off. You don't swallow the information whole. You ask, who published this? Who stands to benefit from it? And what's the opposite viewpoint? You search for sources and compare perspectives before forming an opinion or taking a stance. There are even apps nowadays that show you contrasting articles on the same news story. I saw one recently, but I can't remember the name. In daily consumption, you are thinking of buying a new phone just because the latest model came out, and even though your current one works perfectly fine, you are very tempted to buy it. You ask yourself, is this a real need or a manufactured desire that got planted in my head by advertising? What's the contradiction here? True needs versus constructed wants. Once you realize it, you are less likely to act impulsively. Participation in society. Many people complain about injustice, but don't do anything to change it. They say, that's just the way things are. Solution. Instead of remaining passive, you apply dialectical thinking and ask, what are the real causes of this situation? The sleep, the mechanical life people lead, the vagueness, the manipulation of human awareness. Then you ask, what can I do, even on a small scale, to contribute to change? Maybe open a YouTube channel or a Facebook or a TikTok account and share thoughts like these with others. This suits me. You can find your own way. In your philosophical quest, you feel like you don't have a clear worldview and you are just following what you were taught. You ask, what are my core principles? What are my ideologies and beliefs? Are they the result of critical thinking or were they imposed on me? Through inner dialogue and self-inquiry, you begin to form your own understanding of the world. You filter the information consciously. Dialectics as a daily practice. Learn to ask why instead of taking things for granted. Instead of reacting impulsively to disagreement, ask what is the other person really trying to say? And most importantly, don't label them just to box them and calm down your own discomfort. That's exactly what happened to me the other day on TikTok. I had this incident with someone. If we all saw the contradictions in our own lives and tried to transcend them, what kind of world would we live in? If we searched for the bigger picture instead of getting stuck on the surface, how would the world look? Maybe dialectics isn't some boring theoretical subject taught at stuffy philosophical departments, but actually the way to live more consciously and freely. Let me close with a quote from Antithesis. When he was asked what he gained from philosophy, he answered, to be able to talk to myself. That is dialectics. Thank you very much. Bye.